Hi, I'm Katrina Johnson from New Sky Consulting, and you're watching the CATS channel, supporting young people with disabilities to live their best and their brightest lives. Welcome back, and welcome back, Kathy.
Hello.
So today we're going to talk about the biggest mistake people make when they start in a self-management arrangement. And I'm talking about in terms of making it a successful self-management arrangement. There's a mistake that you've seen people make over and over again. Mm-hmm. What's the biggest mistake people make?
It's the attention to the foundation. I think it's the thinking at the beginning. Last time when we had the chat, I was talking about the planning that needs to be done around the arrangement itself, and I think that's the thing that I often find people don't attend to as much. The tasks are obviously quite self-explanatory, and certainly in the discussions with the NDIS or the service provider, you'll have that opportunity to talk about those things. But the foundation is also about understanding why it's important to do this. It's clarifying what's the point. Mm-hmm. Why would we do this? It's clarifying what's the mission of it. So for example, when I started doing this all those years ago, I set down a mission statement and a vision statement. So I was just saying, look, this basically is really important, and the contribution of everybody on the team will actually enable my daughter to live the life that she's entitled to live, in a nutshell, right? And then I spelt out what the basic beliefs would need to support that. Right? So it meant that, when people were engaging with us, whoever they were, it didn't matter if it was the plumber, if they needed to understand that what we were doing was important in the life of my daughter. I've also seen in other situations where they haven't done that work at the beginning. They haven't thought about the strengths of the people who are running it. We can make assumptions that everybody's on the page. You can think that in a family situation that everybody's agreeing that this is a really important thing to do. On one level, you can see that would be the case. But it's when it gets hard that you need to know that you've got somebody else's back and they're going to support you through that. So I think the planning, the thinking about why this is important, there's not enough attention done to that.
And you talked of mission and vision. So when you're talking mission and vision, you've talked about it in terms of why are we doing this, and is that the arrangement? And then you talked vision. What do you mean by vision? Is it the vision of the person's goals and life? How did you start? What did you do? Why is that so important to get everybody understanding this vision?
In my world, and what I've seen for people who haven't done this, is that if you're not clear about your vision, if you're not clear about saying, why does this matter, and that the focus of it is about the better life of the person with a disability, for example, the people that come on board to support that person, whether they're paid or unpaid, may have their own agenda about it. It may not be what you're wanting them to do or needing them to do. They might have their own,
or it might not match the person with the disability's goals and aspirations.
So whereas having, something simply put down, or where you've actually thought about it, even if you haven't written it down, it gives you a stronger opportunity to focus on matching, and attracting people into the arrangement that are going to actually build it. And enhance the focus on whatever your vision is. All right?
Because they know what it is that they're signing up for to do, and they have a shared belief around that. So what, I guess, values factor big in that as well?
Because you're really needing people who will see the point of it. Okay. It's not like I'm going to say a standard service that has a vacancy and just puts an ad out somewhere and just brings, attracts a support worker in there, for example, and that person just fills on the shift. It doesn't matter who the person's doing things with. what I found to make a self-managed arrangement really work is where there is that attention to building on the strengths and the interests of the person with a disability by the people that are around them.
Yeah.
Again, whether it's paid or unpaid. It's not a big thing, but it does take some thinking, and it can't come from a scarcity position.
No.
You can't think that there's not enough people out there that are going to be able to come and do this sort of work.
So you have to kind of let go of there's no one else that will do this, so whoever comes along I have to employ. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, it's also in my world too that I know my daughter, for example, up to a certain point, but I don't know all about her. As somebody said to me the other day, well, how many 43-year-olds, as a daughter, do I know the bowel therapy program for? Like seriously, I don't know that for my other children. And yet sometimes I know too much, about my daughter. So I guess it's about that allowance for there'll be other people that'll come into her life. And I'm saying this, other people with disabilities' lives too, They'll come in and they'll know other parts of that person's life that the family may not know. Okay, so they'll do things with the paid or unpaid supporters that they may not do with family. It's nearly like you have to, not you have to, but you can choose to step back from it, and not have that emotional attachment to it has to be all about me as the mother or something. I've had to learn to detach from that, and I think the other successful ones I've seen have had that allowance for an ally or a strong supporter to actually step in and support the family, but also really make sure that things happen for the person with a disability. So it's not just the family doing that. Somebody else is brought into the vision of it and can really see the importance of it.
So there's mission, there's vision, there's values, and attracting the right people with the values that will make a difference to that person's life and their goals and aspirations. But you're also talking about an openness for understanding that your vision as mum for your daughter may not necessarily be the same as her vision or the vision others hold for her. Is that what you mean?
I think that's what I mean.
So that's quite insightful, and how do you then work with that in a self-management arrangement to make sure that you're being open and bringing what's in the best interest of the person to bring about all those goals and aspirations?
I think quite early on, before I even started self-directing, I was reading. Now I'm a reader, as you know, I read a lot, and I'd come across a notion called a self-managed team. And I think what's really struck me about that idea was that the staff or the team, or whether they're paid or unpaid people, would be a team. And I'm simply one member of the team. I'm not the boss. I don't have a stronger voice or whatever. I can lead it, but equally the people on the team have the capacity to lead as well. So in what I've seen is that it is about respect for the supporters, that they have a valid and equal contribution to this, that they can really make a huge difference in people's lives. But you've got to allow that.
And that's also taking into account that you've done the values and vision work first, so you've actually recruited staff and paid supports that hold those values that are needed and matched to that vision as well. So you've got a good team around you that are aligned with that bigger vision and that are wanting to make it happen. So that, I guess, that helps to be able to be open to the team approach too, as the mum.
Yeah, and I guess it's also where within the team, it's sort of like that circle of friends idea. The next layer out, it's like the team has their networks. Okay, and within those networks, people can also influence the team. As well. But they're the ones that are like the unpaid people, or just the social connections, the friendships, the extended families, and people that may not ordinarily have come into this mix, but
Yeah.
have because of the connection between,
Relationships.
the people on the team with the person with a disability.
Yeah.
So, you can actually get lots of great insights
Yeah.
from other people, but you
Yeah.
just need to be open to hearing it.
Yeah. And you've got to do that work first on your values and
Yeah.
beliefs.
Yeah.
So, can we go back to beliefs a little bit? Because I think that's really important too. Is where have you seen beliefs factor in not such a good way in self-arrangements?
I think this is the troublesome side of it, I think, is where people talk like it's really important to the person with a disability, but where it's really not about the person with a disability. It's where the family or the parents or the stakeholders have more of a need for their needs to be met than the person with a disability. I think it's about the blind spot. I don't think people do it necessarily deliberately.
No.
I think people just don't see it.
Yeah.
And I think that can have a real bearing on the outcomes and the quality of life for the person with a disability too.
Yeah, because if their belief is, say that the goal is, I'd like to live independently in my own home, but the belief is they can't live independently, that they need, I don't know anyone who would be able to care for them as I do, then that will have a impact on the success of the goal being reached.
It certainly does. Yeah.
How would you suggest people navigate through that?
I think it's about being open to the possibility.
Yeah.
I think everyone in life needs trusted people around them who can actually identify those blind spots. I don't think we do it terribly well, to be honest, in our sector, Katrina.
Or, I think it's when you're in your 40s, you get a bit better at it. It's a learning all the time.
I'm older than you are. But no, it takes courage, I think.
It does
courage
take
to
courage.
hear an opinion from somebody else. But I found that it comes back to trust in the relationship, from somebody to have the courage to say, hey, I've observed you doing this. Is that really what you mean? Is that really what you intend? Sometimes, people have been forced into a situation of having to get counselling, and I mean, being forced into a situation doesn't work.
No.
Because the person's not willing in the first place, or maybe resistant.
Yeah.
I think we do need to understand that people come from all different places with this, Katrina.
Yeah. And so I guess self-awareness is something that factors into the foundation work, and your awareness of where you're at and your resilience.
Yeah.
And your courage to face some of that stuff and to have the hard conversations with yourself.
Well, I guess with any arrangement, you have your highs and lows. And as I said in the previous session, that, you can get all the tasks in place. Once you've got them in place, they may not need any attention.
Yeah.
It might only be an hour or so once a fortnight to do the pays or something, But then when things fall apart, you have to step back into the void. The people that I interviewed for that project were talking about, it was when a key person left suddenly, might have been through ill health, or they got another job, or something fell apart, and then something else happened. There were usually two things that happened pretty close to one another that jeopardized it. It showed the vulnerability in the arrangement itself. And I've certainly been there. It's about, as you were saying, about resilience. That's about who do you call on, to help you to fix that up.
Yeah.
And recognising that you will have the highs and you will have the lows,
Yeah.
but you can claw your way back out of the lows.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. And I have heard you compare the functions and the foundations to like a house.
Yeah.
Do you want to just quickly talk us through that?
Yeah, well, I guess the foundation is just like a house, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you don't attend to the foundation, I think if you go onto the internet, you can certainly see those dreadful photos of the house that's sort of like the house itself has moved off the slab, or it's gone down the side of the hill. Not good.
No.
So I think if you tend to look at a foundation, the attention to detail there, the more robust it is, the more thought that's gone into it. You won't have it all sorted out, but certainly you'll have it as stable as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Then whatever structures you're putting up above it can withstand, some of the buffeting, whether it's staff, whether it's the the unpaid support that you're looking for in the community, the connections, the relationship, the friendships, the other identity issues. You can withstand things if your foundation is relatively firm. Yeah.
So start with the foundations, very
And build.
important, and build. Excellent. Wow. So I guess what we've learnt today is that foundation work requires a massive deep dive into yourself and your beliefs and your values, and how your beliefs and values around the person with the disability that the arrangement's for. That lack of clarity of this stuff actually weakens the success of it in times when things get tough, and it could actually be the hardest part to do, but the most critical.
And you can do it with allies again.
Yes.
You don't have to do all that on your own either.
No.
That's
Excellent.
a great opportunity for a party.
With support.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, that's been another great session. Thank you, Kathy.
That's okay.
I'll see you again next week. Figuring this stuff out can be a bit overwhelming, and that's why Kathy and I have developed a little guide and an ebook to help families and people with disabilities navigate their way through this and figure out what kind of self-management fund option might be best for you. So I'm going to include the link to the ebook in the description box below. So go ahead, and it's free, download that and get started.